Welcome back to Hirscheck Wildlife Reserve. In the first episode, we introduced this wonderful sloth bear, and in the last episode, we brought in the wonderful mute swan in this restaurant area. And we also added the clue that people can actually sit in these boats because these are restaurant tables. But now we do shift our focus to this hand side over here, where you can see already something that we are going to speak about now. Right, welcome into the time-lapse part. This build is going to be a little bit different than usually, simply because it's focused around one single building. The reason for that I'm gonna explain during the voiceover, but also the hint, as always, there's going to be a story from one of you guys in a couple of minutes, so stick with me if you want to know the full story. And again, I have to say that again, thank you so much for the ongoing support on this project. It makes me smile every single day when I see how many people actually came back to the project, and comparably more than on all the other series at the moment, which is surprising to say the least, but also a very welcome surprise. So thank you guys so much, as always, for the support, but also that you love this project so much. It definitely has a different pacing than other projects, and it definitely is a different focus. But yeah, I'm very glad you guys like it. Okay, so here is first of all a bit of insight to what this building is about. So first of all, I found a very cool concept of a new entrance building for the Gersfelder Wildpark, which is pretty interesting. It's kind of called the Sphere in Rhön, and it is meant for like sheep and stuff like that in like a wildlife reserve as well. There's also a concept image, if I remember to put it in. I will put it in right now, right here. So that is pretty much what I want to do, and I think I just did this while I was recording. How cool is that? So I didn't know that this is possible. Usually Premiere is about to crash once that happens. And this inspiration I wanted to take simply because I felt like, okay, this is rather important, mainly due to the fact that we have a very specific challenge with the saiga, because the saiga is not necessarily a typical zoo animal or a typically wildlife reserve animal at all. These animals live in the wild. They're pretty shy when it comes to living with people, and they are also not really good when it comes to stressy situations and a lot of people. So we needed to ensure that this habitat for them is somewhat separated from the people, as some of you guys pointed also out in the comments, so thank you for that as well. And so I was about to make a kind of meadows area for them that is mostly secured by a lot of, well, foliage and plants and trees and stuff like that, to make sure that the animals don't really get the feeling that there is so much going on over here. I also create a little bit of a retaining wall, as you will see later, towards the street. By the way, the street is also going to be disconnected from the pathing. As you can see in the background, people are now moving like all of the times over the street, because that's like the direct connection to the other side. I will certainly change this because I don't want the people to walk over there. Usually it should be solved once the pathing and the path layout is fully done. They shouldn't be walking there anyways, but you know, if they're spawning on the original entrance, the old entrance, and they do want to go over here to the more new animals, then they will take the street, because that's the quickest way getting there. Even though it's not the shortest, it's the quickest. Mainly because you have to basically go through the entire old park before you can traverse into the new part. Now, as you can see, the building itself, and from the image you've seen, I tried to go with the main entrance as much as possible to the concept, because I really liked it. I like the combination of these wooden elements and then the very modern-esque concrete usage. It kind of has something from Bauhaus style paired with like a bit of an older style and very German inspired wildlife. So I do like this building. It has something more unique and cool to look at, but at the same time it fits this kind of more old vibe, and I'm really a big fan of that. One thing I have to say though is I'm still struggling with these kind of geometrical kind of form factors. I tried, first of all, I didn't include that was too much pain to watch. I tried doing this with like custom made triangles, but that turned out to be looking awful. But I do have to say that the finished version of this building is totally fine. You know, I really like looking at it. You could have done this maybe a little more seamless in maybe using a couple more smaller pieces. Just in general, I had a hard time finding out what is the perfect combination of bigger and smaller pieces to make it seem seamless, but at the same time to make it look good. And also, as you can see over here, I'm trying to always use the rotation trick with the mud pillar in the center. If you're not aware of that, what have you been doing the last 4 years? But to keep it simple, rotating around the central axis is always the simplest way to put the pieces into the exact same position. And this is why you see all the mud pillars in the center of the building. They obviously won't stay there, but they are vital to making sure everything you do is coming into the right place. And you can always align pieces by pressing F on your keyboard. It will align this to the very center of the mud pillar. And so you can be always sure that this is the very center of the building itself. And that way I could always go back and try different iterations of what I wanted to use. As you can see over here, trying to use a bit of a different concrete piece to create that upper dome level. I ended up using this one over here, later on paired with some glass pieces, because I felt like I have to do something about this upper top. I wasn't the biggest fan of closing it fully, even though this is in the concept this way, but I didn't want to keep it that dark inside. The main job for this thing is to make sure that the animals don't see you. We are working obviously with a two-sided glass or one-side glass. However, I must admit that I ended up using the normal glass because it's Sandbox, but we have to imagine it is, just because it is like super ugly from the outside for screenshots and stuff like that. So I kept the normal glass in, but you know, in our imagination, this definitely is one-side glass so that the animals don't see the people even. And we imagine that this is like very nicely isolated for sound isolated, you know, that there is not that much sounds coming out of there, and people that way can get really up close with the Saiga without actually coming close to them. So that's the main inspiration. Now let's talk about the story real quick. As always, I'm gonna read it out and then I will tell you who that was. I added a couple of things to make it really fit to Hirscheck because there was a little bit of a gap in between, but anyways, I'm gonna read it out and then I tell you who that was. Now, a small group of Saigas were running around but got stuck in a huge mud pit. They all got stuck and couldn't move. Some of them already died. A man heard their cries and came for the rescue. The animals were saved by a lot of people who were called around them. As one of the men used to work at Hirscheck, he reached out to the reserve. Despite the challenge, they wanted to take them in for a little while. But then again, at the end, they kept keeping them because the Saigas would have had a hard time being put back in nature. So, that story was by Baby Fire Vlogs. I think that's how you pronounce that. There are a lot of different figures in your name, but I think that was Baby Fire Vlogs. Thank you so much for giving us this story. I added a couple of things to make the connection to Hirscheck a bit more obvious. The challenge about this in general is why the hell would Saigas come from, well, their original Asia habitat to here? But, you know, the idea was maybe because they wanted to bring them into a reserve where they can really ensure that they are kept safe. I mean, you know, realistically, it's not really what you would do because these are wild animals and you would bring them back. But I like the story to say, hey, you know what, they're all hurt and they need to be rescued. And once they are in this park and in this project, you couldn't bring them back into nature. I think it's a beautiful story to go along that way. And it is another rescue story. However, I need to ask you guys for more stories like that. We are still missing out on a couple of stories. We need some stories for the boar, for the Wiesent, for the Takin. These are the ones that we definitely need. And also the Wolverine, as it's not done yet, has to come in. Now, the next picture I'm building, so to say, or the next bit I'm building is also very important. And it goes back to a nature park I used to go with my best friend. It's a long time ago that we've been there, but we always went to like a garden type of thing, which was like it wasn't really a natural reserve in that case, that they didn't house animals on purpose. They did house animals because the nature reserve granted a habitat for these animals. So a lot of birds, a lot of amphibians, a lot of, like, you know, all these different types of swans and ducks, and also some deers and common deers, and like really a lot of animals. And that was like a very beautiful wildlife park. And they had a lot of different kind of ways to traverse this park, and some of which were actually some very low it's not even a pier. It was like just wooden pathways that were slightly raised above the swampy grounds. You know, you had a lot of like very nice reed-filled swampy areas. And I don't want to really call that a pond because the water depth wasn't really given. It was like maybe 20, 30 centimeters at most. And then you had this wooden walkway above it, which was again just another 10 centimeters above it, so you could really get up close with all the frogs and little ones, like really nice. You know, you saw all these like dragonflies and stuff rushing through there. I really like that. I mean, we used to be a lot younger once we've been there, but it's been very impressive to see how they also worked this all in with the nature. So nothing was really put through nature but above. And this is what I wanted to do with this entrance area here towards our dome, or sphere, I should say. And yeah, I'm pretty happy with how it turned out in the end. Like, the problem I still see is that realistically the animals could just jump over the fence over here, but I imagine they wouldn't, because that's the only area where a lot of people would traverse, and so potentially this is the area that they would avoid anyways. But yeah, you can see I use this pathway over here just as a little bit of a placeholder. It is very low over the ground, and in a couple of seconds, or towards the end of this build, I'm going to utilize the null path, which fortunately with the free build mod does also work on raised path, and then I'm gonna make my own custom made bridge out of this, and I think it's looking really cool, even though I'm still debating with myself if I want to change the wood later on. It might actually be a bit too bright, and also we need to like make this all look a bit more rundown, but more about that in the real-time part. I'm going to explain how we continue. We also will be live streaming today, most likely. It's not 100% sure, but again, I'm alone with my little toddler, and if she's nice enough to grant me the time, and if she's going to bed as she should, then definitely I'm going to do this. But if she's again nasty and doesn't want to sleep, as she almost every night does now, it could be a bit tricky. But yeah, it's like Christmas is coming closer, you know, and so she's super excited every single day, and having like the advent calendar jeden Morgen. What the hell? My just German crashed into the voiceover every morning. I was about to say that didn't happen too often anyways in the past. Like, why do I have this phrase in my head? Yeah, but getting back to the project, you can see now I'm putting a lot of like stones in and stuff, and I really worked on this picture perfect frame over here. That was the main target for today's video, to make sure that we have this one frame set, because the back part of the habitat should really be the hidden one, so I'm not going to put too many pieces in there, honestly, to save FPS at this point, because making things look that nice and that overgrown and, you know, that lush is really cost heavy on your performance, because of all these pieces, all these things have to be rendered. I really noticed now a huge drop in FPS after this habitat, so I have to be more careful to the other side of the habitat. But we will be also focusing on making a nice shelter for them. The reason why I didn't do that is because the shelter will go together with the Tarkin one. The Tarkin habitat is going to be next, as you can see here to the left-hand side. The TA means Tarkin, so that's what we are going to do next, to basically connect the lake area with this little meadows area. And the Tarkin also is going to receive a very nice, lush, natural habitat with a bit more of a field in the middle. And there's also going to be like a nice little area for the guest included as well. The main issue, and you'll see why that is going to be, it's not really an issue, but the building and the shelter for the Tarkin and the Saiga kind of is connected while not being really connected. I have a very specific idea in mind, but I can only build this in one go. So I didn't want to, you know, just make like a separate thing out of it and just stop in the middle. It should be one coherent build, and so that's why I left this out of this one, but it's going to be the next one, and also gives you guys a reason to continue watching this project. I really hope you enjoy it as much as I do. I'm not entirely sure if it will be done by Christmas. I guess this is a little bit of a stretch, but it's going to be done this year, so we might actually have like a wonderful end of year tour through Hirscheck, which I'm honestly looking forward to a lot, because that project is a lot of great stuff that I really enjoy doing at the moment. This is the already bespoken little walkway, wooden walkway, and as I said, I may actually change the wood because it's a tiny scrap too bright, but then again, it could also be so bright because that's one of the single areas that is very much in the sun. But you know, let's go into the real-time part. Okay, we are standing here now in front of the little wooden walkway, as I already talked quite a bit about it. And now, from the guest perspective, this is the kids' perspective, this is the normal guest perspective. You can see that most of it is pretty nicely hidden. You know, you can get some peeks over here if you want to, but there's really not that much you can see. So you really have to go into the sphere to get a glimpse of what is going on in the habitat. And this is exactly what I wanted to do. Originally, I want to have a couple more trees over here, so potentially I will put a tree or two in, but it just kind of casts so much shadow, and I wanted to keep it at least a little bit nicer looking. But anyways, there you can see a saiga peeking through. But let's just go in here. The inside is not completely done yet, but yeah, I mean, there's not going to be that much in here anyways. Maybe like an education board in the center, and maybe like a speaker. But that's that, you know, this is the idea. Now you can look at that. This is awesome. So you can really see the saiga in here. It can't see us. It can't hear us. You know, kids can actually see very nicely. Even large people can see something. So that is really good. You can see the male saiga over there. Very beautiful. As you can see, there's also this retaining wall in the back that is hopefully keeping the sound away from the street. You know, everything is really nicely done. Then we've got over here, this is like the little hill I intentionally built so that you can see them also just going up the hill and maybe even chilling on the hill, getting like a little bit of ray of sun for them. And then you go to the other side, there's also a bit of a nice view. You can see that wall in the background. It's kind of a repurposed wall from the original Hirscheck area, so why wouldn't you do the same? You know, it's kind of using scrap stones and stuff. So this is basically the main idea about this area, and I feel like this is exactly what we can deliver. As you can see, a couple of little things I have to close off here. It's not like super clean, but I think it's still looking very nice. Look at that. You can even go around and then follow the path of the saiga now as it's walking back there, you know. I should get a couple more saigas in at the moment, by the way. I mean, you can have up to 11 individuals, 1 male and 10 females. At the moment, I've got 1 plus 3. But yeah, so these windows here on the sides, they look really cool, to be honest. Like on all these sides, they're already really clean. Need to clean up the lower ends a little bit more. Maybe give them like a bit of a ground cover. Oops, what the heck? What did I even do? Oh my god, the menu. Sorry, I didn't know that the menu was open and I was grabbing something. So yeah, let's go out of the building again. And then you can really see this is the main area. I'm gonna fly up real quick so that you guys can see this from above. So this is really the meadows part you should see. This area over here is also not finished quite yet, but this will be done along the way. As I said, this build, or like this entire thing, is working a little different this time around. Sometimes I need to keep things located in one area, and then I need to, you know, make a break, because this entire Taken area will be one coherent thing, and this is why also the pathway isn't done quite yet, and also this lakeside isn't done. I want to connect this to the other side, like having this on both sides will potentially look really cool. And then the same goes like when we do something in here. You guys had some cool ideas which other animals we could potentially bring in. I'll decide that upon how much time I will have left for this project planned. You know, I don't want to carry that too much into January, to be honest, because then I may want to focus on something else. But yeah, really in love still with the sloth bear habitat, really in love with the swan area, really in love with the whole project still. So that's super nice, and you can already tell how it's coming together now. I'm actually fearing to make this entire area a forest later on. This will cause some huge FPS issues if we like take this thing and just like copy that over a couple of times. Oh boy, that's gonna be huge. Maybe I'm gonna use some more of these oak trees because they're like freaking ginormous. But yeah, as you can see, this is what I meant here with the street. There are not that many people traversing over here anymore. Most of them using this little shortcut, which is gonna go as well. This is not gonna exist anymore. The whole thing will be connected here, and maybe I'm gonna make like something else connecting through here, because one thing that I'm still not happy with is this common deer habitat. I like everything else, but this common deer habitat needs work. So that is one of the last tasks I gave myself. But yeah, really hope you guys enjoyed this one. I certainly did enjoy building again a lot. As you can hopefully tell, I'm very inspired by this project. Hopefully so you are. And yeah, let me know in the comments what you want to see in the next episodes. As I said, the Taken is going to be next, potentially in a live stream tonight. So if you guys want to be part of it, make sure to check your subscription or your follow on Twitch so that you can come over and have a lovely time with us. Also, I want to thank all of you who recently resubscribed, I should say. Not sure what YouTube is doing at the moment, but people are constantly being unsubscribed from channels, so please double check if you're still subscribed. And if you're not and you like the content, please consider doing so. Easiest way to tell the algorithm that I'm here, I exist, okay? That would be lovely. So thank you so much for all of you, for all of your support, for just being with me here. Making a weird wildlife park in a zoo game. So yeah, hopefully you guys are as happy as I am about this project, and I'm very happy to see you in the next one too. So have a wonderful time. Thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.